Shalom, shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief. Brought to you, as always, by Lay of the Land, hosted by me, Rolene Marks, where I join you, my Israel briefers from all around the world, from Trinidad and Tobago to Zimbabwe, to Northern Ireland and the United States and Australia and South Africa and the United Kingdom, and everywhere in between. I love to have a cup of tea with you. And I really love to hear what you guys are up to while you listen to your Israel Brief. It is Thursday, which means I announce the Mench and the morons of this week. This week, sadly, we only have one Mench, but we have a few really top candidates for morons. And I will also take that audience question. And if I don't get to your questions, please be patient. I don't always see all of them. But if you do have a question, please pop it in the comment section or via our social media. It is day 608 since the atrocities of the 7th of October, which we will keep reminding the world about because the world has forgotten why Israel is at war with Hamas. And there are 56 hostages that remain captive in the Gaza Strip. We want all of them home now. We know at least 20 or 21 are still alive. 33 have been killed either on the 7th of October or in captivity. And the fate of 3 remains very, very uncertain. And we are very concerned about that. So let's take a look at those top stories. And you just heard me mention that there are now 56 hostages captive in the Gaza Strip. Earlier today, the IDF and the Israel Security Authorities, or Shin Bet, along with the community of Nir Oz, announced that the bodies of 2 deceased hostages, Judith Weinstein and her husband, Gadi Chagai, had been recovered by our security forces in an overnight operation. The family of Judith and Gadi said that this is a very, very solemn moment, and while they call for privacy, they implore all decision makers to do everything possible, everything that is necessary to bring back the remaining 56 hostages. Now, Judith and Gadi went for a walk in the early hours of the 7th of October. In fact, footage has been released from the security cameras from Nir Oz, which shows them exiting the kibbutz, which is very, very close to Gaza. And the audio that shows Judith's last conversation with a Magin David Adom, or a paramedic, online, speaking about how they had both been shot, that she believed Gadi to be deceased, that she had been shot in the face and in the hand and they needed help immediately, and that there were terrorists surrounding the area that they were. Now, an ambulance was dispatched but was sadly hit by a missile, and they were unable to get to Judith and Gadi in time. Their bodies were taken into Gaza. They were discovered in Khan Yunis with the help of the Shabak, or the Shin Bet, interrogating the Hamas terrorists who have been taken into custody, who gave them a lot more information that allowed our security forces to pinpoint their intel and conduct this recovery operation. They were also taken by the Al-Mujahideen terror group. They are the same terror group that took Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas. Our thoughts, our prayers are with the families, with the community of Nir Oz. The imperative of a dignified burial is a human right, and the magnitude of it cannot be understated. May the memories of Judith and Gadi be eternally blessed. Is Israel heading to elections soon? Well, this could be the case. As many of you who follow Israeli politics will be familiar, there is a lot of contention around the fact that the ultra-Orthodox have enjoyed exemption from military service. Well, now there is a lot more of a call from Israeli society and many in the government to push forward with legislation that will draft many Haredi or ultra-Orthodox men. Now, Orthodox parties have threatened to dissolve the Knesset should this law go through. In fact, senior rabbis have called on the ultra-Orthodox factions to leave the coalition. There has been a lot of, how do I say it delicately, a lot of maneuvering by the Prime Minister to ensure that they don't leave the Knesset or they don't leave the coalition, which would effectively collapse his government. Now, you would have known that last year the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, as well as the former IDF Chief Herzi Halevi, they were huge proponents of increasing the draft, as are the opposition parties, saying that, we are losing so many soldiers who are fighting and dying in defense of the country, and why is one sector of society exempt? So watch the space. There is a lot of talk that we could see some factions leaving the coalition. The United States yesterday vetoed a resolution at the UN Security Council that called for an immediate ceasefire, an unconditional release of the hostages, and a wider distribution of aid to all parts of Gaza. Now, why did the US veto this decision that was put forward or supported rather by countries like the United Kingdom and others that sit on the council? Well, the US representative to the UN Security Council called it an unserious and embarrassing decision, especially when there are so many questions around the United Nations, their funding and how they are carrying themselves throughout this war, especially in the Gaza Strip, and also said that this resolution would undermine diplomatic efforts that would see the release or that would see an agreement on a ceasefire that would reflect the situation on the ground or the reality on the ground, and would not leave in place Hamas, which would be able to carry out further attacks. And finally, she is fast approaching with her merry band of morons. Yes, that would be Greta Thunberg, Liam Cunningham, who played Sir Davos on Game of Thrones, and their merry band of anti-Israelists who are on the Freedom Flotilla. Well, what is very interesting is there was mass panic aboard the flotilla because as they passed through Greek waters, the Greek Coast Guard sent up a drone which absolutely flustered all those on board. They called it a psychological operation or psychological warfare on behalf of the IDF. Guys, really, just be quiet. Just be quiet. Your stupidity is speaking for itself. But they are fast approaching Israeli waters, and the IDF have said that they are prepared. They have gained experience in recent years and will do whatever they need to act accordingly. Well, this should be interesting. I wonder if or how Hamas would react to Ms. Thunberg and her cohorts arriving in Gaza, should they be able to enter Gaza. But I think that Hamas would quite happily agree to surrender if Europe took back Greta. So those are our top stories. Let's take a look at the audience question before we get to your Mench and your morons. And it comes from Stephen Spinellis, who says, why is the border with Egypt closed? Well, the border with Egypt is closed because they don't want an infiltration of Gazans into Egypt, because what could enter Egypt, along with potential refugees from the Gaza Strip, are Hamas members who are an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is banned across many countries in the Middle East. It is quite obscene that Western countries haven't banned the Muslim Brotherhood, and you can certainly see the effects of it in your governments and in your streets as they move to capture and, dare I say, colonize more of the Western world. So that is the long and the short of it. Egypt are very aware of the potential threat Hamas and the Greater Muslim Brotherhood pose to them, to their internal security, and that is why they don't want them. So now, guys, let's get to that moment of the week you all wait for. It is your Mench and your moron. One, I'm going to invest in a proper drum kit. So let's take a look at the Mench of the week. And sadly, this week we only have one Mench. And if you aren't following him on Instagram, go and follow him right this minute. He is the Babka King, or more better known to everybody as the incredible food reviewer Chris Cares-Nunn. So it's Chris, C-H-R-I-S. His surname is Cares-Nunn, C-A-R-E-S-N-O-N-E. He has gained many followers across Israel and the Jewish world for his incredible reviews of, amongst many foods, Jewish foods. He particularly loves babka. That's why we call him the Babka King. He is in Israel at the moment. He is loving every minute of it. And I really encourage you to follow him and also hear his perspective on Israel. Not just the food, but what it has been like for him to see that not all Jews are white, to see that we are a country of many different cultures, and to see what it has been like for us to live under perpetual threat with sirens going off. We didn't have a siren last night, thank goodness, but we did have sirens for 3 nights in a row, something he experienced, and he shares his thoughts. So go and follow him. He is Chris Cares-Nunn. And hey, if you have a babka, send him a babka. And now for our 3 morons of the week. One particular moron, and I'm sure you can guess who this moron is, had basically the most votes. So in no particular order, moron number 1 is French President Emmanuel Macron for taking such a hostile stance against Israel, probably to satisfy sectarian groups within his country. Just a short while ago, he says that they will be discussing what further action he can take against Israel. Will it be sanctions or whatnot? Let's just remind President Macron, your wife gave you a slap last week. Maybe she should have shaken some sense into you, and you've forgotten who your allies are, President Macron, and you've forgotten that it is written in the Bible, and I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you, and in you all the nations of the world will be blessed. The second epic moron of the week is Piers Morgan. Now, if any of you saw Piers's debate the other night, if you can call it that, featuring the comic Dave Rich, who apparently is now an expert on the Middle East, considering he's never set foot here, and not only has he never set foot here, he's a comedian, he's got no qualifications, and the brilliant barrister Natasha Hausdorff, who has debated in places like the Oxford Union, the Monk debates in Canada, who has spoken before Parliament in courts of law and is an expert in the laws of armed conflict and international law, and has also been to Gaza and to Israel, a place that neither Piers or Dave have set foot since the 7th of October. Piers's appalling treatment of Natasha ranks probably amongst the worst of his media appearances I have ever seen. We know that he has platformed anti-Semites over the last year or so, and his response to all of us calling out his behavior is to simply block people on Twitter. Utterly appalling. So if you are on X, use your voice and call Piers out for his blatant Israel phobia. And I'm sure you can guess who this week's top moron is, and it is You guessed it, the green climate goblin herself, Greta Thunberg, who is headed towards Israel in this tiny diesel boat, diesel, so much for climate change, to quote unquote end the blockade, which has long since ended. In fact, millions of meals are being distributed across Gaza, and aboard her ship are not just some real, for want of a better phrase, specimens, but she is bringing, wait for it guys, milk and protein bars, which she seems to think will sort out the food crisis in Gaza. I will leave you to form your own opinions. So guys, that's it from me for this week. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook page is at Lottle Site. Our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. Slowly we are growing, and if you like our content, please hit that red subscribe button. We are on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, Instagram at Rolene_Marks, X at Lay of the Land 5. And guys, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. May it be peaceful and restful. Shabbat Shalom, and I will see you again on Monday. Bye for now. Much love to you all.